Here's the truth. Maurice called me because he's my brother and I love him. And he said, hey, what do you think about me fighting for the UFC heavyweight title? And I go, oh, who has the title? I knew at the time. I go, you mean Mark Coleman? He goes, yeah. I go, terrible idea. His reply, I already signed the contract. My reply, you got this, brother. We better start training.
I love it. Positive thinking. Perfect.
Coleman in our interview said, we have 2 interviews with Coleman, the first interview. He says, Shamrock told me that he was training Maurice Smith and that I should be careful about him. I didn't pay it any attention.
Yeah, all true. He laughed. Oh, Frankie. Oh, Frankie. He patted me on the head like I was a little boy. He said, oh, Frankie.
Frank, before we go too far, one of the things about you and Maurice Smith is that aside from talent and athleticism and stuff, you guys are kindred spirits. You know, he's a goofball too. I mean, and I don't mean it like that, but it's like you guys had a way of managing the room where you could keep everybody off guard and stuff like that. And you guys were clearly the A guys. Yeah, obviously. Yeah. Do you remember? Yeah. I'll tell you a story in a minute. Go ahead, though. Talk about that dichotomy.
Well, it's just, you know, I came from a world where you couldn't ask questions and you couldn't question the master, and it came down to beatings, and it was counterproductive for what I needed to do and learn. But when Maurice taught me, he would give you a logical explanation with a biomechanical answer, and then show you the technique, and then show you variations of it, like a good teacher. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I was like, I didn't know these people existed. So I had the same process. You know, I was mainly focused on learning the truth and then giving that to other people, like using the skills that I was learning. And so we just, you know, I didn't know the striking. He did. He didn't know the grappling. I did. And, you know, we formed such a wonderful bond, you know, learning, teaching, you know, sharing with each other. And then, you know, Maurice grew up like I did. You know, he didn't have a dad. He didn't have stuff, and he fought for it. And that's how we ended up becoming brothers. I mean, he is my brother. If he calls me, you know, tomorrow, I'll be there no matter where it is, because he's always been there for me. And that's, you know, when you're a warrior and you trust no one, and someone shows you that type of love and respect and care, that's your brother.
I'll tell you a story. I don't know if it'll come across, but a UFC rule meeting, and John McCarthy's, you know, being all serious and says, you know, going through the rules, you can't eye poke, you can't, you know, manipulate groin. And Maurice Smith raises his hand and says, can you manipulate your own groin?
I am certain that is the truth. And what is Maurice does what I do. We use humor because we've had such pain. We use humor and intellect to, you know, lighten people's load. But behind that, like with Maurice, is a very sharp, you know, tactical mind. And we shared that together, you know, whether it's wherever it came from, you know, we shared that tactical mind. When he fought Mark Coleman, I wrote 5 moves on a piece of paper and said, Maurice Smith, if you do these 5 moves every day, you're going to beat Mark Coleman. And every day he complained, he's never going to get me down. And he would bellyache endlessly while doing these 5 moves. And if you watch the fight again, you'll see he basically does 5 moves. And then he beats the hell out of him.
To hear the entire interview, please subscribe to the Lights Out MMA History Podcast, available on all major podcast platforms.